Welcome to Sean and Paul's Hockey Talk. Hockey Talk is all about sharing and promoting the exciting sport of hockey globally.
You shout it out, but I can't hear a word.
Alaska draws the opening tally. They lead 1-0.
Well, Dubois picked the pocket of Blackman, and Dubois, the takeaway, the breakaway, and the finish. That's a great shot. And Dubois has been scoring a lot of goals lately, and you can see exactly why. And there you see the turnover.
All right, Sean, we're given just a taste of what this episode 1 from season 1 is all about for Hockey Talk. Here, the Nanooks grabbed a 3-2 win over nationally ranked Notre Dame back in December of 2022. All right, Jonesy, here we go. We've got 3 exciting topics to talk about today. The first one is University of Alaska's excellent 2022-23 season, where they almost qualified for the NCAAs. Secondly, we're going to talk about the Phoenix Alumni event, which was awesome. We had 40-plus guys. And then lastly, so importantly, Steve Moria, hockey alum, second highest point getter of all time, second only to the great one himself, Wayne Gretzky. Unbelievable.
Coming down, but it's you who have further to fall. Ghost town, haunted love.
All right, Jonesy, let's go ahead and jump into topic 1, the University of Alaska Fairbanks hockey season. Unbelievable season. No one better to talk about it than Scott Rosellis, the president of the Alumni Association and hockey player extraordinaire from the early 80s for the Nanooks, leading scorer back in his day.
You know, the Nanooks have had a great season. You know, they're an independent, as a lot of people know now, and so last night was a huge game because the teams had a great year, and they've been on the cusp of getting closer to being a team that might qualify for the NCAA tournament. And so last night against Arizona State, who is really a quality opponent, brand new arena, 5,000, all the amenities, anything you'd want, they have for their program. And they have a lot of top NHL draft choices and so forth. So it was huge for us to come in and beat them, and we really have something to play for because, you know, right now we're ranked 12th in the pairwise ranking, which is the determiner for who makes the 16 teams in the NCAA field. So, you know, the season's not over. A lot can happen because it's a computer ranking. It depends how you play and win, but it also depends on teams you've played, how they do. So it's really an interesting process, but it's been a great season so far, and you know, the team, our team is really outstanding. They're playing at a very high level, and you know, teams have a difficult time playing against us. We're kind of relentless. You know, we've got some good players, and if you were at the game last night, we dominated for a good part of the game. And but anyway, a lot of fun, and that's a little bit of a synopsis of the team this year.
Thank you so much, Scott. Great synopsis. I tell you, there's no one that bleeds Alaska blue and gold more than Scotty Rosellis.
And I don't care what anybody says, home ice advantage always is a plus. You're going to get much better results at home than you are on the road.
Oh, exactly. Well, just looking at the stats for the team this year, I mean, they were 67%, almost 70% win-loss record. They were 22-10-2. And to your point, Sean, they at home, they did really well. They were 10-2-1 at home. They were 12-8-1 away. Had a win streak of 6 at one time. I mean, big wins this year. Definitely the second part of the season. They started off a little slow. I think they were hovering right around 500 in the first half of the season. But then they came on big time. November 22nd, they played Penn State. They lost both of those games. Looking at the stats for the team this year, I mean, they were 67%, almost 70% win-loss record. They were 22-10-2. And to your point, Sean, they at home They did really well. They were 10-2-1 at home. They were 12-8-1 away. Had a win streak of 6 at one time. I mean, big wins this year. Definitely the second part of the season. They started off a little slow. I think they were hovering right around 500 in the first half of the season. But then they came on big time. November 22nd, they played Penn State. They lost both of those games, but first night was 3-2. Second night was 2-1. And they really proved then that they could play with the top teams in the country.
Absolutely.
And then after that, they went on December 31st, they played Notre Dame, where they beat them 3-2. They dropped the second game 2-0. But then they went on to their next series at Denver, that I think was in the top 3 ranking at the time. They beat them 3-1
at home first night.
The first night. So, yeah, they've had a real strong second half of the season, which really gave them the chance to get into the tournament this year.
Well, another thing too, there's some games in there that they probably should have won that they dominated. For example, St. Thomas University, they beat the Nanooks, beat them the Friday night. The Saturday night they came out and dominated. I went to the game, it was 50 shots on goal, and the goalie was outstanding for St. Thomas, and they got beaten overtime. They dominated. They should have won the game.
Oh, yeah. So I think you and I were at that game with Coach Schaefer.
You know, and playing some top teams in the country and doing very well.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, hats off to the coaching staff, Coach Eric Largen, assistant coaches Chris Brown, Lenny Hoffman, and Eric Yancey, as well as their captains, Harrison Israels and Garrett Pike. I mean, the coaching staff, the captains, the team just really came together and gelled nicely this year.
Well, it's fun to see a program like Alaska that has not gotten the accolades over the years and been around for 40 years as a college hockey program. And hey, it's hats off to the boys, coaching staff.
Not only did they have a great season, almost got into the tournament, but they had three of their players signed professional contracts at the season end. You have Colin Doyle, one of their senior forwards, who signed with the Savannah Ghost Pirates. Savannah,
Ricky
Georgia.
Bennett, coach.
Farm club for the Golden Knights.
Yeah.
And you know the coach.
I was a GM. I was a GM.
Carney moves it out.
Rick Bennett and the TD Pride.
A good shift from the
South Carolina is one of our captains.
D'Amato, far side circle, assist with a shot and a stand-up save by Gahagan. Poked in front, they score! Colin Doyle in his first professional shift gives the Ghost Pirates a 1-0 lead. 3:55 into the first. Oh, what a moment for Doyle, the 24-year-old out of Ontario, spent 4 years at Alaska Fairbanks, joined the Ghost Pirates a couple of days ago, and he scores his first as a pro.
You know, just an outstanding person, outstanding player, just the salt of the earth, great family man. And he's going to be going to a great program.
That's awesome. And then they also had, the Nanooks also had Matt Radomski.
Yeah.
Did I pronounce that the right way?
Yeah, I think so. You know, signing with the Calgary Flames to American Hockey League contract. I mean, he's one step away from the show. And boy, what a legacy Fairbanks has had as far as goaltenders. I mean, we were, of course, we started out.
That's right. Back in 1980, 81, 82.
But there's been some goaltenders that come out of Fairbanks and played in the NHL, played in the American
Chad
League.
Johnson.
Yeah, Chad Johnson. And so I mean, this is another young man that's got a chance to work hard and get an opportunity.
Absolutely. And then a third Alaskan Nanook that signed a professional contract, Marcus Kummels, a junior defenseman, signed in the ECHL with Troy Rivers. So yeah, it's just some strong talent there. Going to be sad to lose him since he was just a junior, but sounds like he's got a great opportunity there.
Great season with some great games.
Exactly. And, I must say I feel better about it now a little bit after reading this one article that I want to share from College Hockey News. The managing editor, Adam Wodon, wrote a great article and we'll put it in the link as well. It's titled Alaska Watched and Waited and Then Heartbreak. And he really breaks it down, and he does a great job interviewing Eric Largen, the head coach for the Nanooks. And hats off to Eric and the rest of the coaching staff for being just so humble and understanding, and putting it in the rearview mirror and looking towards next season to prove out that they are a top tier team that deserves to be in the tournament.
Yeah, no doubt, Paul. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Eric and Chris and the whole coaching staff, because they did such a wonderful job of being extremely professional since the situation. I don't know if I could have been. I really, be honest with you,
Right.
I wouldn't have been so maybe nice, because I would have felt like there was something going on, that there wasn't the fairness. And one of the things that the NCAA basketball does is they do play-in games. I say, you know what? If there's any discrepancy, have a play-in game. May the best man win. And
Right.
and so that's one of the things I'd like to see happen in college hockey. If there's some teams in the bubble, have a play-in game. Then there's no controversy. Hey, that team beat that team. There you go.
Great point. Great point. So just a kind of a summary of this article, again, by Adam Wooden, managing editor for CHN, College Hockey News. So Adam writes, a lot of feel-good stories around this year, but perhaps the feel-goodiest one of all was Alaska's run to potential NCAA tournament bid. He goes on and says, they were left for dead a few years ago with the program about to be cut, then being left without the conference, the pandemic canceling a whole season. They did have some NCAA sanctions for some inadvertent violations. After all of that, they go on this year to win 22 games, playing an independent schedule, and winning enough times against higher end teams that it rose as high as number 12 overall in the pairwise. Coming into the season, you could see the Nanooks, they're like, oh my gosh, we've got to have a good season here, and they definitely did. But in the article, it goes on to talk about Alaska coach Eric Largen, saying, a few weeks it's a little bit blurrier. You had Michigan State, Notre Dame, North Dakota, Omaha still in, but as it gets closer and closer, it clears up, and it's pretty straightforward towards the end. But it was just an agonizing slow trickle as the Nanooks dropped to 13 and then 14 and then 15 in the pairwise. And they needed everything to go right on the final day of the conference tournaments. Eric shared that, Coach Largen shared that, all the guys were watching the games as the staff were as well from their office. They were watching them from their homes. Both Colorado College and Colgate were in position to take an automatic bid in the 15th slot. Colorado College lost. Then Colgate pulled out a 3-2 win over Harvard for the EAC championship, and Alaska's season was over. So that was it. That was really the nail there. Colgate winning over Harvard. Harvard, I believe, was favored to win. Colgate,
Right, they were.
came from a lower ranking. I think they were three or four seeds below.
Yeah, and here's the question that I would raise. Fairbanks is an independent school. Nobody let them in a conference. CCHA, the NCHA, they wanted to be in a conference, but when the WCHA folded, Fairbanks is like the man out, and how can you penalize a team that's had such a great season, that's an independent, does not have any more games to be able to play, and push them out? The record has to stand. I guess the question that I had, and I'm not trying to poke at Canisius, but Canisius was 18-18 in their record this year. Their schedule, strength of schedule, was not that strong. They got beat by West Point. They got beat by RT. They lost some games that well, if you're a team that's going to make the NCAA, you better win those games. And so, what I would have liked to see is if there's any discrepancy, let's have Canisius and Fairbanks play each other. And I think Fairbanks would have dusted them. I mean, they went and played the Gophers in the first round and got smoked. I mean, would Fairbanks get smoked? Well, in 2021, the University of Alaska Fairbanks came to Marriott Arena and split with the Gophers. They beat them the second night. So
that's right.
So let's take the merit of the season and the games you've beaten teams, and if there's any discrepancy, then you have that play-in game like they do in the NCAA basketball tournament.
Absolutely. Great point, Sean. Yeah. And then just to wrap up on the article again by College Hockey News, he interviewed Coach Eric Largen, who said, I think we all felt like we were going to get in, even up until the clock struck 0 with the Colgate-Harvard game. We would find a way to get in, but it didn't work out. But it wasn't hard to motivate. The guys were hungry, and we felt like if we had the opportunity to be in the tournament, we'd show and play well. But only so many teams get in. Ultimately, it wasn't meant to be. Alaska had booked flights to Boston, anticipating that if it made it, it would be one of the Eastern Regionals. Largen has no qualms with the system. Like many other teams, they were left agonizing over the one game with one more win that would have gotten them in. And I got to say, this is the part where I really have a lot of respect for Coach Largen. He goes on to say, it's funny that people are upset about it. I think the pairwise played out perfectly right. The teams that should have gotten in did. If we win one game against Michigan Tech or Penn State, they're probably on the outside looking in. It was in our hands, and we didn't do enough early on in the season, and some teams got hot late. The only thing that's frustrating is that we don't get the chance to accumulate a few more wins in a postseason tournament.
Right.
But whoever was going to be left out, Merrimack or Mankato, they're all really good teams. It's just the way it works.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's just, you have to commend Eric for his comments because, he's a young coach. He's on his way. I mean, he's doing a great job, and they're trying to make their way and really bring the Nanooks into that program that's a contender. And Chris Brown coming on board with Eric. I mean, here's a Brownie's unbelievable. I mean, he's won NCAA Division III championships. Chris is a great guy, great coach. They have a heck of a coaching staff, and they're going to recruit some great players. And you know what? I look forward to seeing Fairbanks going up against some of these other major universities and winning out on those recruits.
Absolutely.
Because you know what? Anybody who's listening out there that has a kid that wants to play college hockey, I'll tell you something right now. The University of Alaska Fairbanks is one of the nicest programs you can be in. They have a NHL locker room that's second to none. They got a gorgeous arena. They have a university that cares about them. Like Nicole, the vice chancellor, she's all about the guys and all about the program. And so when you have that opportunity to play in a place like that, boy, I'll tell you, don't look a gift horse in the mouth if Fairbanks comes knocking.
Hiking Camelback Mountain. Beautiful morning here in Phoenix for the University of Alaska versus Arizona State University series. D1 hockey tonight and tomorrow. Nanooks have got a good shot of breaking into the top 16 NCAA rankings to get to go to the tournament, especially if they win tonight and tomorrow. So we got a group of about 40 alum that have flown in from across the country, some that live here, that will be there tonight and tomorrow rooting on our mighty Nanooks.
Taking a look
Go Alaska.
at the almost 40 Nanook alum that came to Phoenix for the incredible alumni event. So we had Alba Bryce, goaltender extraordinaire, whose son looks like is going to play for Arizona State here in a year or two. We had Bob Sattler. I don't believe made it, but great player back in the early 80s. Brad Corbett, Buddy Bender, both on the team with Steve Moria that had so much success. Actually, Brad was on the line with Steve when they had the NCAA scoring record back in the early 80s. Dan Graham, back from those days as well. Dave Jabinski, who was in the early 80s, him and I were roommates in 202 Bartlett Hall. And Dave was not able to make it back due to the snowstorms, but we will look forward to seeing him in the future. David Holmes was there. Dirk Anderson on the line with Steve Morey and Brad Corbett in the NCAA scoring record year. Don Jameson, wonderful guy, great friend, played professional hockey in Europe for many years after his Nanook days. Doug McFall was there. Eric Stokes from Minnesota came to Arizona. James McKee, what a personality. Got to meet him, great guy. Jay Weaver, goaltender extraordinaire. Jeff Bellamini, back from the 80s. Jeff Owens, who we found out was a cornerstone NCAA player with Fairbanks back in the early 80s, and then he went to Arizona State and became an Arizona State University cornerstone player when they're first starting in the NCAA. Keith Carlson, great to see Keith. Keith Holton, that played with Steve Moria and others. Keith Swarner was there. Keith is so involved in the Alumni Association, doing such a great job. Kevin Knorr. Kevin was so gracious. He hosted us at his university sports grill and bar in downtown Tempe, Arizona. Just a wonderful time. Thank you so much for that, Kevin. Kevin Sullivan was there. And Lenny Zazer. Great to see the Z-Man. Mark Reinica, who's done so much to help pull the alumni together. Paul Burke, I was there too. Rick Schaefer, our coach in the early 80s, was there. So good to see him. Ricky Pitta, haven't seen him for a number of years. I tell you, that guy's just electric. Still great energy today. Russ Telvey, Russell the Muscle from Fairbanks, goaltender in the early 80s. Sandy Imlock was there, who actually played in the late 70s as well. Scotty Rosellis, president of our Hockey Alumni Association, and really the glue that holds us all together. Shane Hanada, great to see Shane, played with Steve Moria, actually played with Steve before they came to Alaska, I believe in the BC League. Sean Jonesy Moondogger, my buddy and my partner in this video YouTube channel. Steve Charbonneau, Sharbs, it was great to see Steve looking great. Steve Moria, we'll hear more from him in just a little bit. Again, second leading scorer of all time in hockey. I should say point getter, second only to the great one, Wayne Gretzky. We're going to hear more about that in just a minute. Tom Crowley was there back from the early 80s. Tom Van Humesen, who was on the early 80s team. Tom has climbed Mount Denali / Mount McKinley, I believe 3 or 4 times. Unbelievable. It was great to hear those stories. And then, of course, Brad Lepper was there. Brad, so good to have you. Last but not least, we had our very own Tom Emmer at the event. Tom played with Don Jameson, Buddy Bender, Steve Moria. Tom was one of the assistant captains back in the early 80s. It was so great to see Tom at the event. All right, Thursday night before the big Alaska-Arizona series, we're at Top Golf.
Steve Moria. Here we go. Oh, he blasted that. Very nice. Gotta like that. All right, you've heard it here first. This is breaking.
Yeah, we're in the tournament already, so here at Topgolf right now on a Thursday night. Gotta love it.
Hey, Michigan, Quinnipiac, bring them on. We'll beat them.
I'd like to sing a song right now.
All right, the coach. Oh, nice ball, Coach Largent. You hit that one large.
After a fun Thursday night of Topgolf, some of the guys did a Friday morning real golf, and some others just hung out by the pool and talked. Take it away, Sean.
We all have our lives and families that we've had over the years and spent a lot of years of being apart. But it's kind of funny when you come back together, it seems like it's just happened yesterday. You know, you reconnect and people enjoy the camaraderie you have as a teammate and a player. There's nothing greater than being a part of a team. And, the Nanooks, the program's been around 40 some years. And, it's really cool to see that it's sustained the test of time, because a few years ago, they were talking about disbanding the hockey program in Fairbanks and Anchorage. And, people stood up and took account and said, hey, you know what? We're not going to let this happen. So I'm really happy and really blessed to see that the program is strong and in good shape. And it makes us all proud, because we were part of that. And so it's fun to see what the future holds. I mean, who knows? Maybe next couple of years, do the Nanooks play for a national title? We don't know, but we certainly know that they have really improved in their hockey program and the caliber of players there. We're excited about hopefully the club. By winning last night, they went to the number 12 spot in the pairwise. But the one thing that I really appreciate is the backing of the alumni to do the things we've done in the last few years, especially the locker room at the Carlson Center. It tells you the commitment from the guys. That's special.
What a wicked game to play to make me feel this way. What a wicked thing to do to let me dream of you. What a wicked thing to say. You never felt this way.
Before the game, we head over to Kevin Knorr's Nanook Alumni's University Sports Grill for some pre-game festivities.
And I don't want to fall in love. No, I don't want to fall in love with you. Don't want to fall in love with you. With you.
Thanks for hosting a great time at the University Sports Grill, Kevin. Now we hop into our go-karts provided by you and the team and head over to Mullet Arena for a great game.
It's strange what desire will make foolish people do. I never dreamed that I'd love somebody like
Oh my goodness, what a weekend. Friday night, the Nanooks taking on Arizona State University, and what a game it was. The alumni and the fans were cheering on the Nanooks, who took an early lead and then a 4-2 win that night, with Matsui leading the Nanooks to that victory with a hat trick. The hockey team made some serious noise at Mullet Arena. This was February 24th, again with a hat trick from Peyton Matsui. The Nanooks powered past ASU to move to 19-10-2 on the season. The next night, Saturday, February 25th, again a 4-2 Nanook win. They grabbed win number 20 on the season with the sweep of the Sun Devils in Tempe. Great job, guys.
Well, our program went to the NCAA level back in 1980-81. In fact, you and I were teammates that first year when we were Division II. And so for many, many years, players came and gone and went on to their lives, and there was no real connection yet. So back in 2003, several of us decided, we should have a reunion, bring guys back to Fairbanks and get together. But we realized to do that, we got to reach out to players and build a database. And so we started a database of emails, had guys challenged to find their teammates.
Well, yeah, I mean, Scott is UAF hockey. I mean, there's no doubt that Scott has had a huge impact. And to be honest with you, without Scott Roselius, there's no Nanook hockey, I don't think. I think you were such an impactful person in keeping things alive and keeping the alumni program alive and reaching out and connecting people. No, Scott, there's all we can say is thank you. You've just done a wonderful job, and we, every program has to have somebody like a Scott Roselius, and you stepped up and you were that guy. So I applaud you and thank you. Paul and I, we've been back and forth with some events we've had in Minnesota, and those were special times. Remember you coming down? We played golf. We went to the Saints baseball game. We just had reconnecting all of our guys in this program. Like today, we spent 2.5 hours, Paul, at the pool side with Rick Schaefer, Bud Bender, and Don Jameson, Shane Anada, and Keith Houghton. I mean, we just talked about the Nanooks and Nanook hockey, and it's pretty amazing. It really is. Just think that a little town in northern Alaska could support a Division I hockey program like we have over the years, and it's amazing. It's a really amazing deal, and when you look at the underlying elements of it, there's a name that says Scott Roselius in there because you were such an impact in the whole program.
Well, part of that, Sean, was I worked at UAF for a lot of years, so I ended up knowing just about every player that came through the program. So when we started our email database and it started gaining steam, people knew, I guess, who I was. So I was by default the go-to guy, and I was happy to do it.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of how that evolved through time, and it's gotten stronger and stronger every year.
Yeah, no doubt. The one thing that a lot of you guys don't know, that you're seeing our HockeyTalk program for the first time, but Scott has not only been an impact on the Nanook hockey program, but he's been an inspiration for people in the program because he's cancer-free. And, I just praise the Lord for that. Well, yeah. Because that's what healing comes from God, But we're so glad you're here.
Well, me too. Thanks, Sean.
But no, we had a great time, and we looking at the past, looking at the future. We're so proud about Nanook hockey.
Yeah, no, and all you had to do was go to the game last night and see a team that looked pretty darn good.
Yeah, very good.
It looked like an NCAA caliber field team to me last night.
No doubt.
And because ASU's got a lot of top players, and they maybe have underachieved this year, and they beat a lot of good teams this year, like Minnesota and Boston College. So they're clearly a good team, but sometimes you match up better, and I don't think they like playing against us.
No,
because we're deep and we're physical, and I don't think they like that.
I think Chris Brown's addition to the club has been huge. Yep. Brownie I've known for years, and being an assistant coach, but bringing the pedigree that he brought to the Nanooks and helping Eric, I think, has been a huge asset. And we're hoping that that's years to come. So
yeah, I agree.
Back to you, Paul.
All right, thanks, Sean and Scott. On to topic number 3. Hockey alum Steve Moria, second all-time point leader in the history of hockey, second only to Wayne Gretzky.
Give me the information too that Steve Moria being here, and there were like 3 guys in all the pro hockey, and Steve was mentioned with Gretzky, and I can't remember who the third guy was for total points. Pretty nice to be in the top 3, huh?
Ovechkin, 1,707. Jaeger 2597, Howe 2640, Moria 3058, and Wayne Gretzky 3686.
I think Steve could have had a long NHL career, but the timing of when he came out of Alaska after his junior year, signed by the New York Rangers, Phil Esposito was the general manager. And at that point, his style of play was looking for big, rugged 6'4" bruisers. And Moria was really Gretzky-like. I mean, 6 foot, 175 pounds, eyes in the back of his head, and really an incredible player that it was bad timing, So he ultimately played the American League his year for 2 years, did well, but then he had a great opportunity to go to Europe, and he went over there and just lit it up for a career. And he's a legend in Europe, it really is. And so, but he's a dynamite player. I mean, you talk to coaches like Don Luciu, coached at at Alaska, then Colorado College, then at Minnesota. And when you ask him some of the all-time great players, he said Moria comes up always near the top of the list as one of the top players he's coached.
It's funny, we were talking about this in the car. The first couple of years, we had different line mates. Brad was the center as well. And then I think at the start, it must have been at the start of the year, right, Brad, when third year at the start, Brad on the left side, myself in the middle, and Dirk on the right. And we just, for whatever reason, I think all three of us are quite smart players, quite skilled, very offensive minded, and we just clicked. We really clicked, and I think we were strong. In most games. In fact, probably all games, we were a threat and scored a lot of goals.
This is an amazing deal. Obviously he didn't play in the NHL, but he played professionally, played college. Of course, set the NCAA scoring record with the Nanooks that 1 year. It's a pretty amazing story. One of the things we're going to be doing, obviously, with this HockeyTalk deal is we're going to stir things up a little bit because you're going to say, "Oh, what do you mean? Who's this guy? Who's the Steve Moria guy?" And it'll bring him to the forefront. I think it'll be interesting to see. What's on Paul last night. It'd be interesting to see if some of those guys reach out and contact him, like a Gretzky and obviously hockey. Gretzky's Gretzky. But when you start throwing some of these other names out and stuff like that, and when we started doing the fact check, because how that kind of came about was Scott Roselius. Didn't Scott say something? There's something about Steve and his points and stuff, and he's right up there. So we started doing a fact check and said, well, this is interesting. Who knows who Steve Moria is? I mean, really? I mean, he didn't play in the NHL, but he played professionally for years, and was a great hockey player.
Donnie, I know you played some European professional hockey for a number of years. You played with Steve at Alaska, and you played against him in professional hockey.
Yeah, a couple times.
Could you share a few of those stories?
I played with Steve in Alaska, and then I played against him in England a few times. And he was in a different league, but we played in cup competitions. So I played in Cardiff against him, and I played in Manchester against him. So a very gifted player. You talked about it earlier. A very, very fit person. Yeah, and great vision for the game. I don't think I ever played with anyone else that I'd ever could see the rink like he did. It was so fun to watch. A lot of times you just stood and marveled at what he could do. So, very fortunate. I think it extended Rick Schaefer's coaching career by several decades, and earned him a lot of money and paid off his mortgage because Steve Moria had a gift.
Probably my firstborn kid was busy.
Well, all your children have Steve as a middle name. I know that, boys and girls. Just to make sure that he's recognized. So, yeah.
Well, he's a very good hockey player. I'm glad that you're verifying that, whether he surpasses whoever. He was a very good hockey player. We were fortunate to have him in Fairbanks for 3 years. I was talking to him last night because he came to the games, and we reminisced. And it was actually this summer, one of the summers after his junior year, Bob Johnson had come to Fairbanks to do a hockey camp. Ted Sater, the newly appointed coach for the New York Rangers, came to town. He said, "Tell me about this Moria guy." And I said, "From what my involvement in hockey, this guy is phenomenally talented forward. I mean, he's the kind of guy, I fancy myself a good stick handler, but I'd never play keep away with him. He'd tie me in a knot. And I just said he's a very talented player. And scoring is proof that he's for real. And so they signed him. And he went, I gave up a player for his last year, but obviously in pursuit of a professional career, which should have been able to pursue. And he did. And then he shared with me his stories. He did play with the Rangers for a while. A year and a half he was with the organization. He played with, I think it was New Haven or something, was a farm team. And the general managers there, Craig Patrick, I believe, they wanted him to gain weight. They wanted him to be 175 or 180, and no matter what he ate or did, he couldn't gain the weight. But he was still a good player. And they kept playing him down in New Haven. And Phil Esposito came along and said that he needed to see these other guys play. And why are you giving any playing time to this Moria? He's too small and fragile. And that was the start of the end for his play at the NHL level. And then he took the opportunity to go to England, and that's a story in itself. I mean, he played until he was 52 years old, and very well recognized in whatever Great Britain hockey is. So the short of it is, he was just a very skilled hockey player. We were fortunate to have him on our team in Fairbanks, Alaska, and all that. He's a good guy and a good father now, and he's very philanthropic. He's organizing charity games for breast cancer awareness, and you see him on Facebook with pink jerseys and doing crazy things with this kid. So good for him. Glad I know him. Glad we had a chance to be with him.
Well, it's the first time I've seen the Nanooks play live in about 10 years, and it was a good game. It was really good. Well, as I would describe Steve to people, I said he wasn't the fastest skater. He didn't have the hardest shot, but he was like the best player. I mean, he was not the best at the individual skills, but he was just the best guy that I've ever been on the ice with. I can't. I'm trying to think of one. I can't. It's hard to narrow it down. His body of work speaks for itself. Though I do remember one time I said one of the most amazing assists that I ever saw. He was coming down and Tom Smith was breaking in the middle of the ice, and he did like a 720 and right on his tape and a tap in goal kind of thing. And it's just, most guys would have fell on the first 360, and he was just, it was a pirouette, and puck never left his stick.
Well, I'm going to be fully transparent. Last night I had more fun talking with Tom Emmer and Donnie and getting reacquainted for this reunion event. And I was just watching more on the TV versus actually watching the live game. But, from what I've seen, and I'm looking forward to actually today sitting on the rail and watching the full game. But the Nanooks have been doing well. You kind of follow them from afar. Eric sends out kind of his notes and keeping us updated. It's bright future for the Nanooks in my mind. So memories of Steve, one hell of a ping pong player down in Stevens Hall. He would just own the table. Tough to get him off it. But on the ice, I think I heard some of Holt's comments, right? He was truly the best one on the ice. He was certainly a team player. He didn't let despite his capabilities and talent, didn't have an ego that would get beyond him, right? I mean, he was a humble gentleman, man. If I think of one of my favorite memories, Steve was the player when, if you were down in a game, you could count some way, hiding her hair, he'd find a way to get the puck and make it exciting at the very end. I think there was a couple of games, maybe Governor Cups games, whatever. I remember the one up in Fairbanks, right there. You see the picture where Steve scores the goal. It was a tie game, and he buries the puck, and it was a great memory. I'm skating out to give him a hug after the goal, right? It was just a pretty neat deal. He lit the room up as far as keeping people on the edge of their seats every time he touched the puck. So,
but my last year junior in the BC Junior League, we played against each other. I didn't know him at all. Great player in the BC League. Then we met for the first time face to face when we came up to Fairbanks, and when I think of Steve, I just think of he's an unbelievable athlete. Can play anything, start it, do any sport, he excels at it. I remember Coach Schaefer one year, he said to me,
no matter how good of a shape you come in, Shane, you don't have the fast twitch muscles. And I go, what are you talking about? He's going, some guys have fast twitch muscles like Moria, and well, you don't, right? So Steve is a great guy and a great player. Got a lot of respect for him. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Great. Thanks, Shane. All right, I'm here with Dirk Anderson, University of Alaska Nanook. Back in the early 80s, there's actually an award for the Dirk Anderson Scholar Award for the best academic player for the Nanooks. That has been an ongoing award now over close to 40 years. So could you tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are about the Nanooks, how they're playing now, in the game last night?
It was a great game last night, and I'm so excited that they are that good. It's very impressive. Coach Largan is doing a great job. I mean, I think they're going to get in the tournament. It's really good stuff. They're really good, and that was a great game last night. It was a big win. We got a win tonight, and I think we're in, right?
Yeah.
Right, Paul? All right. Steve had 109 points in 30 games. He was the best hockey player I've ever seen and I've ever played with by a long shot. I've never played with anybody. And you referred earlier to me as the scholar athlete, and the smartest thing I ever did was to get myself on his line. I was on his right wing and I fed him, and we had a great time. He was a great player, and not only that, he was a great guy. People talk about how great a player he was, and he was the best player I've ever seen. But beyond that, he was a really good friend and a really great guy. And I love him, and I saw him this weekend, and that was awesome. And I've never seen a better player and a great guy as well.
All right, here we are at the Mullet Arena in Arizona, Tempe. We just watched the University of Alaska Nanooks defeat the Sun Devils of Arizona in a hard-fought game. And we're here with Steve Moria and Sean Jones.
I thought the game was great. I really enjoyed watching the game. I thought Alaska came out flying in that first period. In the second period, they were just as effective. I thought Arizona they came out strong in the third period. Really put a lot of pressure on the Nanooks, but they weathered the storm, I thought. And like Jonesy said, goaltending was superb tonight. But overall, it was a fun game to watch. I really enjoyed it. I found myself glued to the game. I'm here for the sort of the celebration we're having with the alumni, but I found myself really glued to the game because it was really exciting.
Sean has played with you in the past. I've practiced with you a little bit, and I know what a great hockey player you are and you were. And so we dug into a little bit. We started looking at the stats, and we found out that you're in the top 3 point getters of all time hockey, right behind Wayne Gretzky. And this episode, we're going to prove that out with all the proof and the statistics. So, Steve, I know that's kind of catching you off guard a little bit, but what do you think of that?
I think it's yes, it certainly has. It certainly has caught me off guard, I suppose. It's not something I never really thought about. Obviously, I've had a long career, and yes, I've scored a few goals and had a few assists. So. Exciting. I'm pumped to hear that news. I think it's fantastic. I'll relish it. It's something I'll always remember. Yeah, superb. Thanks.
Well, I think, you look at Steve's hockey history and career, and what you see is a gifted hockey player, like a Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, and Steve had a gift to play the game. He was great offensively. He could move the puck to teammates, but also he could make plays. He was a playmaker and always had opportunities to score goals, which he did. When you're a hockey player or an athlete in a sport, especially a professional at college, the big thing that you got to do is you got to close the deal. You got to score goals. And Steve was that type of player. I mean, he was any team would like to have a Steve Moria on their team because he was gifted and he put the puck in the net and made plays and made everybody around him better. And so it was a real privilege for me to play with Steve. And we've all followed his career for years and had a great career in professional hockey overseas. And, and those numbers will never be erased. That's the cool thing about it, is that Steve has that ability, but also has made his mark on hockey history, and we're excited to expose that to the world.
And then one last question for Steve. Steve, if there was one, two, or even three key things that you think were the secrets to your success in hockey over all these years.
Yeah, I think the number one thing, or actually 1, 2, 3, number one, I would say is fitness wise. I think to play as long as I have and some of the other players to play as long as they have, you have to be at a really high level of fitness. Secondly, you got to have great coaches and teammates that surround you and help you and make you better, make you a better player. And thirdly, I think was probably the most important is having fun. I love the game. I love the excitement. I love the pressure of trying to win. I love the pressure to try and score goals. And I guess the more you play, the more you kind of excite yourself into those opportunities and want to do well for your team and want to do well for yourself. And yeah, I wouldn't change anything. Playing it up with Alaska is probably the start of what was to be for my career. And Rick Schaefer, he brought me to Fairbanks to play for Alaska, and I love my teammates, and it really worked out well with the organization. And from there, we went on to the professional level, and obviously I played in England, Wales, and Scotland for I don't know how many years, probably about 1,000 years, but it seemed like. But again, coaching and teammates and line mates and just the love of the game, and that's really the exciting part for me. It's just hard work. You've got to work hard. You've got to listen to your coaches, and you have to have fun, and you have to be willing not only to enjoy yourself, but do whatever it takes to try to improve and just keep improving as much as you can. It's been a pleasure. I love it. I love being here these few days. The podcast has been fun, and watching the Nanooks and meeting up with the guys, playing golf, and it's phenomenal. I love it.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, guys. Pleasure.
And that's a wrap. And that's a wrap indeed. Thank you so much for watching Sean and Paul's Hockey Talk, Season 1, Episode 1. Make sure to tune in to Episode 2, where we're going to be diving deep into the present and future state of junior hockey here in the U.S. and beyond. All right. Let's check our mics. Our mics
Test,
are on.
test.
I think we're good.
You can hear me?
Make sure you're... Yep. It's on. Is my green light on?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here we are at the Mullet Arena in Phoenix, Arizona. What a weekend.
What a great weekend. But, here's, you look at this absolutely fabulous venue here at the Mullet Arena. Opened up in October of 22.
Yes.
The Sun Devil hockey team plays here, and so does the Phoenix Coyotes for the next couple of years until they get their new building. And this is the state of hockey. Southwest United States, 20 years ago, they wouldn't know a hockey puck have hit them in the head.
And now where do you got hockey? You got hockey all over the country, the North, the South, the East, the West. You got the Tampa Bay Lightning that won back-to-back Stanley Cup championships a couple years ago.
Let me turn off my phone.
Unbelievable.
And storytelling galore.
Yes, indeed. A lot of stories that a lot of people had forgotten. They weren't sure they wanted to remember them, too.
Exactly. Yeah, so we had a great time, and it's good to see old players and friends and coaches, and it's just when you get at a place in your life, like we're in their 60s, and now we don't look like we're 60.
That's right. We don't want to see comments on our YouTube saying, "Oh, you guys look older than 60."
But you reflect back and see where the game of ice hockey's come in the United States, but also at the collegiate level. When we graduated from high school in Minnesota, there was 39 teams, maybe 40 teams. Now there's over 60 teams that are playing Division I college hockey.
Wow.
With a number of teams coming in next year,
Augustana and Sioux Falls is coming in. There's a number of teams that are talking about transitioning into D1 hockey. So in the next 3-4 years, we might have seen 4 or 5 new Division I college hockey programs.
Absolutely.
It's wonderful. Hockey's alive and well, and we're going to see the sport grow at the collegiate level where, I mean, if you look at basketball, football, baseball, stuff, 400, 500, 600 teams, Division I, Division 3,000. I mean, all these teams, hockey, a little bit behind, but it's growing, and we're starting to see, especially with junior hockey. Junior hockey has allowed the kids to continue their hockey careers. And obviously, their goal and their dream is to play Division I college hockey, and it has afforded a number of them to play. It's now the USHL, which is, I think, probably the most premier junior A hockey league maybe in North America. There's some debate on that, but I think they're right there. And it's a great organization, great league. And that league even has evolved, because back when you played, when you went to a St. Paul Vulcan game, you would say, I went to a boxing match and a hockey game broke out.
Exactly.
Because that's the way it was played back then. It's not that way anymore. It's a finesse, fast, speed game.
Right.
I mean, the guys that are 6'2", they're not fighters, they're goal scorers.
Yep.
So.
Two of the big standouts on the Alaska team are Matt Radamowski,
I guess.
Yes,
the goaltender.
Heck of a goaltender.
Mhm.
Transferred through the portal from Holy Cross.
Yes.
I think is he from Winnipeg?
From Winnipeg. He's a Winnipeg kid.
Winnipeg kid. And then another guy who's one of the leading scorers for the Nanook, Johnny Sorensen, was another portal transfer from the University of Minnesota. So here you got 2 guys that are helping the Nanooks make a run hopefully into the playoffs by keeping the puck out of the net on one side and putting the puck in the net on the other side.
2 important aspects of the game of ice.
Yes. So the portal is turning out to be a real game changer, I think.
It is.
And there's pros and cons on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, you don't lose eligibilities. The portal's being used very extensively in football and basketball. I'm sure baseball a little bit too, but ice hockey, it's becoming a big deal because these new teams are popping up in Division I, and frankly, they don't have the players that have the experience. And some kids that's at like Holy Cross, like Matt, he said, "Hey, I want to make a move," and he put himself in the portal, and Eric picked him up, and the rest is history. He's had a phenomenal year for the Nanooks, and certainly Sorensen as well from the Gophers. I mean, sometimes you need a change, and playing 4 years for the same school sometimes doesn't always work. And being in a different program and using the portal to get there, I think it's a good thing.
On the flip side of that, what we've heard through our YouTube channel and through other sources is on the flip side, it can impact some of the players that are there that maybe are more middle of the road players, excellent players, but maybe not the stars.
Right.
So then they're a little bit on the edge where somebody could come through the portal and then bump them out of a spot. So there's that as well. But like with any change, any new technology, new processes, there's pros and cons to it.
Absolutely. And I think that certain teams have taken advantage of it. I mean, you look at the University of St. Thomas, a very new Division I college hockey program. They went to the portal and they took like 10 guys, I think it was.
Wow.
And it really changed the landscape in that program because they've been very competitive this year. So, hats off to the coaches to keeping their eyes and ears to the grindstone and using the portal to improve their club.
Yes. University of St. Thomas, as you mentioned, new to Division I over the last couple of years. Just announced building an arena on campus, $70 million grant to add to other millions of dollars funding.
Well, some of the kind of money we would donate.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, here you go. Here's a check for $70 million.
Unbelievable. But it'll be fun to watch that program grow and develop. You kind of get the feeling that they're targeting to be the new kind of Notre Dame, maybe of this.
That's
this
a good
area.
analogy.
So
and a fine university. And of course, you got your master's degree from St. Thomas.
yes, great school.
You have a real respect for the university, and it's a fabulous school. You're right. I think they will become that Notre Dame of the Midwest. And I think, when you see these new teams come in, it just makes it harder for those old standbys to recruit those top players, because now they have choices. And that's what makes it really cool about what college hockey is going through right now, is that you don't see just one team dominate for 10 years. You see one team, hey, they're great this year, but next year another team jumps up and another team jumps up.
Right.
And that's because of the expansion of ice hockey in college. You're seeing that many more great players moving on to different programs. Kid from Minnesota, back when I grew up, to play for the University of Minnesota, the Golden Gophers. I mean, that was a dream for every Minnesota kid. It's not that way anymore. And Bobby Motzko is doing a fabulous job with the Gophers. They're number one in the pairwise rankings. But there's Bemidji State, D1. There's St. Cloud State that's D1. There's Mankato State that's D1. And you're trying to compete with those guys. And Duluth is, of course, D1 Scott Sandlin. Scotty's done a great job with a couple of national championships. And there's options. And that's where these university assistant coaches have got to do the job and work hard to get players.
Great point.
I don't know. I mean, who knows, Paul? We might have one episode and it's over with. We're one and done, right? But I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this, and I think there's going to be some great stories and great episodes to come.
I agree. Well, in the very least, we've got to do is prove that what they always said about goaltenders, where they were half a loaf short and lost some of their marbles getting hit in the head with a hockey puck. It's not true.
No.
We are still alive and kicking, and
right.
We've got something to share with the world. So
yeah.
we're gonna keep going.
Thanks, Scott. Excellent synopsis. There is nobody that blah 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 blah. And that's our wrap indeed. Thank you so much for watching Sean and Paul's Season 1, Episode 1, Hockey Talk, the new YouTube channel that focuses on doing it right like two moondoggers do. You betcha. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Scott. Great synopsis. I tell you, there is no one that blees blows more than Scotty Boy Roselius, my good friend. Thank you very much. No, I'm not going with that.